The voice of my first guest will be instantly recognizable to anyone who's ever rented an audio guide at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. In many ways, Philippe de Montebello's rich baritone became the voice of the museum during the 31 years he served as its director. He retired last year, but will return to the Met next Thursday to speak about the work of Antoine Watteaus, the 18th century French painter, and to read some of the French poetry the artist inspired. The reading coincides with an exhibit of Watteau's paintings currently at the Met, an exhibit that was arranged by the museum in honor of Mr. de Montebello. And I'm very pleased that he joins me once again on the show. Hello.
Delighted to be here, Leonard.
Would we still hear your voice if we borrowed an audio guide at the Met today, or has that chore been passed on to Thomas P. Campbell, the museum's current director?
Well, I'll have to say, in fact, you can hear it now, probably for the last time in an exhibition of American art. I was asked to do two of the paintings, but if I were my successor, I would not ask me to do the audio guides.
Well, your voice was on the Selections from the Director's Emeritus tour, wasn't it? And you recorded that in 5 languages?
Yes, they didn't ask me to do Russian. I could have done that too, believe it or not.
Really? So you speak that many different languages?
I have a good ear for languages and a terrible one for music, although I love music, but I cannot sing Happy Birthday.
Why did you record them yourself instead of delegating them to... I used to do some of the acoustic guides in the old days, a radio person or a curator or a department head.
Well, I thought, you could say that I have a big ego, but in fact it seems that the public likes the timbre of my voice, and I have been told every time I said, why doesn't someone else do it? But they want you. So I happily was accommodating.
Why did the museum honor you with an exhibit of Antoine Watteaus' work? Is Watteau a particular favorite of yours?
Oh, yes. I think everybody knew that certainly one of the painters that I most enjoy and who really I find most poignant and lasting pleasure in is Watteau. So I was thrilled that they picked it.
Well, his paintings show musicians and dancers and actors. They seem to be his favorite subjects, but some people consider his work to be a bit frivolous because he always seems to be concentrating on people who are enjoying themselves.
Well, you see, I think that's the great paradox. All of his followers, whether it's Pathé or Lancret, others, you might say were rather frivolous. It isn't grand history painting with huge mythological scenes or scenes from ancient history. But only the subject in Watteau appears on the surface to be frivolous. Théophile Gautier, the French critic and poet, said it wonderfully well when he said, in fact, Watteau sees all of life in black. The only pink is on his palette. He turns these subjects that have to do with theatre and music into the most elegiac and melancholy pictures.
Well, he's working around the same time as 2 other painters who had a similar sensibility. I guess this is the end of the French monarchy, Boucher,
No.
Fragonard, no?
Watteau actually, most of his life is during the final years of Louis XIV's reign.
The 14th, okay.
And then he continues to paint for another 6 years. He dies about 6 years, I think, after Louis XIV, 1615. And he dies in, 1715. He dies in 1721. And this is the time of the Régent, Philippe d'Orléans, who had a great collection of paintings. And we still have Louis XV to come.
And then the 16th.
And Boucher and Fragonard is later.
Isn't relatively little known about Watteau's life?
Very little is known about Watteau's life.
Why would that be? Because he was an important artist during his day, wasn't he?
Yes, he was engraved during his last time. He was actively collected during his last time by private collectors in Paris, by Frederick the Great of Prussia, which is why so many of the great Watteaus are in Charlottenburg today in Berlin. He wrote little was written about him, and it's just one of those things.
One painting that you'll be speaking about next week, called Mezzetin, was painted by Watteau between 1718 and 1720. This is a very recognizable image.
It's a recognizable image, I suspect, because it's been extensively reproduced. I mean, it is really one of the great pictures in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's a small picture, but it grows immensely in the imagination and in the mind's eye. It's a picture with an interesting history. The only reason we have it is that it was sold by Lenin from the Hermitage collections in the early 1930s when they were trying to raise some cash.
And they sold an awful lot of great paintings to America. The National Gallery in Washington
Several Raphaels.
Has some of its greatest paintings there. And in recent years, there's some people in Russia have said that we got a raw deal. We want them back.
Want them back? There was a transaction, a buyer and a seller. No, I'm afraid they have no case.
This is the painting, despite all of the masterpieces in the collection, that was chosen. The Mezzetin, this musician playing, is it a lute or some kind of guitar-looking instrument, to be on the cover of the guidebook for the Metropolitan Museum that's available in the gift store.
That's true. There is... I don't remember. I mean, it looks like a guitar. I don't think it's exactly a guitar. It probably has an exact name, and if we looked at the entry on the picture, we would know. What the exhibition does, and it's a wonderful show, Watteau Music and Theatre, is that it shows not only the works of Watteau, and not only paintings, but some of his great drawings. He's one of the great draftsmen, but also a number of the musical instruments of the time. So there is actually a similar museum instrument such as the one there and such as the ones that are represented in his pictures.